Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep
Oh, yeah.
into Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
This book is a fascinating exploration of strategies and tactics
Right.
used by powerful individuals throughout history.
Yeah.
We'll be unpacking its key insights and exploring
Okay.
what makes it so compelling for you,
Yeah.
especially its focus on understanding and navigating the often unspoken rules of acquiring and maintaining power.
It's interesting how Greene presents these laws. He doesn't necessarily endorse them, but rather presents them as observations,
Okay.
almost like a scientist studying the laws of nature.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit further.
Sure.
So you're saying it's more about understanding how power works,
Yeah,
not necessarily about condoning every tactic, right?
precisely. The key is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Being aware of these laws can help you avoid being caught off guard
Right.
when they're used against you.
Yeah.
And of course, to consider how you might utilize some of these principles ethically in your own life.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We'll definitely dive into the ethical
Yeah.
considerations as we go.
Okay.
Now, the book covers a wide range of laws,
It does.
touching upon everything from the importance of never outshining your master
Right.
to understanding the motivations and weaknesses of your rivals,
Mm-hmm.
the power of symbolism and spectacle,
Yeah.
and the strategic use of deception.
Yeah.
We'll be highlighting some of the most compelling laws
Right.
and discussing how they can be applied in a modern context.
One of the most striking laws
Yeah.
is Law 1.
Okay.
Never outshine the master.
Right.
The story of King Louis XIV imprisoning Nicolas Fouquet is a powerful example. Fouquet, the finance minister,
Right.
threw an extravagant party
Okay.
that unintentionally upstaged the king.
Oh, wow.
Louis, feeling threatened, had
Wow.
him imprisoned for life.
Wow. Talk about making a bad impression. It seems like a pretty extreme reaction, but it does highlight the importance of making superiors feel secure
Right.
and avoiding the appearance of surpassing them in power or brilliance.
Absolutely. It's a subtle dance.
Yeah.
You want to demonstrate your competence and value without making your superiors feel insecure.
Right.
Think about it.
Okay.
Have you ever been in a situation where you felt the need to downplay
Oh, yeah.
your accomplishments or knowledge
Yeah.
to avoid making someone else feel uncomfortable?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that unspoken rule in some workplaces where you don't want to be seen as too ambitious
Right.
or make the boss feel threatened.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
another law that I find particularly insightful
Okay.
is Law 7, get others to do the work for you,
Uh-huh.
but always take the credit.
That sounds a bit Machiavellian, doesn't it?
It does.
But I guess in the context of power dynamics,
Right.
it's about being strategic and leveraging other people's skills
Mm-hmm.
to your advantage.
Yeah.
Didn't the book discuss Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison
Did.
as an example of this law in action?
Tesla, a brilliant inventor,
Yeah.
worked for Edison early in his career.
Okay.
He made groundbreaking contributions, including developing the alternating current AC system,
Yeah.
which revolutionized the way we use electricity today.
That's a massive accomplishment.
It is. But the book points out that others often tried to claim credit for Tesla's work.
Oh, wow.
What's fascinating is that Tesla could have potentially used Law 37,
Okay.
create compelling spectacles
Uh-huh.
to showcase his AC system's superiority.
Right.
Imagine a grand demonstration,
Yeah.
a public display of his invention's power and efficiency that could have solidified his reputation and made it harder
Yeah.
for others to steal his thunder.
That's a brilliant insight.
Yeah,
It connects two seemingly disparate laws
it does.
and highlights the strategic thinking involved in navigating the world of power.
Right.
It's not just about coming up with a great idea. It's
Right.
about knowing how to promote it,
Yeah.
protect it,
Uh-huh.
and ensure you get the recognition you deserve.
Exactly. And that brings us to the ethical dimension of this law.
Okay.
While leveraging other people's skills is essential for any leader,
Right.
it's crucial to acknowledge their contributions and give them credit
Yeah.
where credit is due.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, you risk creating resentment
Right.
and undermining your own credibility.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
It's about finding that balance between delegating effectively
Yeah.
and ensuring that everyone involved feels valued and respected.
Right.
It's leadership,
Yeah.
not exploitation.
Yes.
Speaking of leadership, I think it's time for a quick message
Okay.
from our sponsor.
All right.
If you enjoy thought-provoking content like this deep dive,
Yeah.
be sure to check out A Firmified Journey on YouTube
Okay.
for more motivational insights.
That's good.
They have some fantastic videos that delve into personal growth and achieving your goals.
Great.
Now getting back to the 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
Another law that I think is incredibly valuable in a modern context
Right.
is Law 13. When asking for help,
Okay.
appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude.
Okay.
Instead of pleading or guilt-tripping,
Right.
you're framing your request in a way that benefits the other person.
Yeah, so it's less about begging for a favor and more about creating a win-win situation.
When
Right?
both parties feel they've gained something valuable from the exchange.
Right. There's that great story in the book
Okay.
about art dealer Joseph Duveen and industrialist Henry Ford.
Okay.
Duveen wanted to sell Ford some valuable paintings,
Right.
but knew Ford was a tough customer instead of a hard sell.
Okay.
Duveen had a book of art reproductions made just for Ford.
Oh, wow.
He presented it to Ford as a gift,
Okay.
emphasizing Ford's refined taste.
Was Duveen being genuine? Or was he cleverly manipulating Ford by appealing to his vanity?
Right.
It seems like a fine line between flattery and manipulation, wouldn't you say?
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? And it really gets to the heart of the ethical considerations surrounding some of these laws.
Yeah.
Was Duveen's approach manipulative?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But it also demonstrated a keen understanding of human psychology. He knew that appealing to Ford's self-interest, his desire to be seen as a man of culture and refinement, would be more effective than any sales pitch.
So what you're saying is that this law, when applied ethically, is about understanding what motivates people and framing requests in a way that aligns with their desires.
Precisely. And that's a skill that can be incredibly valuable in a wide range of situations, from negotiating a business deal to navigating personal relationships.
Now, moving on to a law with significant implications for personal safety and strategic decision-making,
All right.
we have Law 19. Know who you're dealing with.
Right.
Do not offend the wrong person.
Okay.
Okay, this one sounds like something straight out of a gangster movie.
It does.
Don't make enemies with the wrong people.
Right.
But on a deeper level,
Yeah.
it's about being aware of the different types of people you'll encounter and understanding their motivations and potential for retaliation.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of developing your social intelligence. The book uses the story of Genghis Khan, the fearsome Mongol conqueror, to illustrate this point.
Genghis Khan was known for his ruthlessness.
He was.
What does he have to do with offending the wrong person?
The book recounts how he destroyed the entire Khwarizm Empire because its Shah underestimated him and, more importantly, offended his honor.
Right.
This really illustrates how crucial it is for you to assess someone's potential for retaliation before you act.
It's a powerful reminder that power dynamics exist everywhere.
They do.
Even in seemingly mundane interactions.
Oh, right.
We need to be aware of the subtle power plays that happen in everyday life and choose our battles wisely.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to walk away than to risk provoking the wrong person.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another law that I think is essential for understanding how power operates in the world.
Okay.
Law 31, control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal.
Okay.
This is about the art of subtly influencing decisions by carefully crafting the choices available to others. It's about making them feel like they're in control while subtly nudging them towards your desired outcome.
So you're saying it's a way of shaping the decision-making process without being overtly controlling or manipulative.
Exactly. The book provides the example of Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of Russia.
Right.
He offered his abdication as an option to secure absolute power.
Okay.
He knew the Russian the powerful nobles, were a threat to his authority.
Okay.
So he announced his intention to abdicate.
Wow.
Knowing it would throw the country into chaos.
That was a risky move.
It was.
He was betting that the boyars would fear the consequences of his abdication more than they feared his absolute rule.
Precisely. And it worked.
Wow.
The boyars, terrified of instability and potential rebellion,
Right.
begged him to stay,
Yeah.
granting him the absolute power he craved.
Wow. That's an incredible example of using reverse psychology on a grand scale.
Yeah.
But how does this apply to, say, everyday situations?
Sure.
I can't exactly threaten to quit my job every time I want something.
Of course not.
Right.
But think about it this way.
Okay.
Have you ever presented someone with a choice where both options led to an outcome that benefited you?
Actually, now that you mention it, yes.
Okay.
I was trying to decide on a vacation destination with a friend.
Right.
And I presented two options that I was equally happy with, knowing that no matter which one they chose, I'd have a great time.
There you go. That's a perfect example of controlling the options in a subtle and ethical way.
Yeah.
You were still giving your friend a choice, but you were also shaping the decision-making process to ensure a favorable outcome for yourself.
That's a fascinating insight. I never realized I was using a law of power in my everyday life.
It happens more often than you think.
Really?
These laws are all around us, operating in the background of our interactions.
Okay.
The key is to be aware of them, to understand how they work, and to use them ethically and strategically to achieve our goals.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this deep dive so compelling.
It is.
It's not just about understanding history.
Right.
It's about understanding ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. Welcome back to our deep dive into Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
We've already uncovered some fascinating insights into the strategies and tactics used by powerful individuals throughout history.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how these laws, while written centuries ago, are still so relevant in our modern world.
Absolutely. Human nature hasn't changed all that much.
Right.
And the dynamics of power are as timeless as ever.
Yeah.
Let's delve into some more of these intriguing laws.
Okay.
Starting with Law 37.
Okay.
Create compelling spectacles.
Ah, the power of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this one.
This law focuses on the seductive power of visuals, symbolism, and grand gestures. It's about creating an aura of power and influence through carefully crafted appearances.
It makes me think of those larger-than-life figures throughout history who commanded attention and respect through their presence and presentation.
Right.
Didn't the book talk about Julius Caesar as a master of this law?
Yes. Caesar understood the importance of public image.
Right.
He cultivated a larger-than-life persona using grand gestures, impressive speeches, and lavish public displays to enhance his authority and captivate the Roman people.
So it's not just about substance, it's about presentation.
It is.
Creating a narrative.
Yeah.
A visual representation of power that resonates with people on an emotional level.
Precisely. Think about modern-day politicians, celebrities, even business leaders.
Yeah.
They all understand the importance of crafting a public image that projects power and influence. Take Steve Jobs, for example. He was a master of creating compelling spectacles around Apple product launches. The sleek designs, the dramatic lighting, the carefully choreographed presentations. It was all about creating an aura of excitement and innovation.
You're absolutely right. It's all about stagecraft, isn't it?
It is.
Creating that wow factor that makes people want to be a part of what you're doing.
Exactly.
It makes you realize that you could have the best product or idea in the world, but if you don't know how to present it in a way that captures people's imagination, you're missing a crucial piece of the power puzzle.
Exactly. Now, this doesn't mean that substance is unimportant, but it highlights the power of presentation in shaping perceptions.
So it's about striking that balance, right? Having the substance to back up the showmanship.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another intriguing law.
Okay.
Law 38, think as you like, but behave like others.
Okay.
This one seems a bit contradictory at first glance.
How can you think freely while conforming to social norms?
Yeah.
It seems like you'd have to sacrifice one or the other.
Yeah. It's a delicate balance, for sure.
Yeah.
This law acknowledges the importance of having your own thoughts and beliefs, but it also recognizes that openly challenging the status quo can be dangerous, especially when you're trying to gain influence.
So it's about picking your battles, right?
It is.
Knowing when to blend in and when to stand out.
Right.
Didn't the book talk about a philosopher?
It did.
Who used this strategy to survive imprisonment?
Yes. Tommaso Campanella wrote a book called Atheism Conquered while imprisoned by the Inquisition.
Oh, wow.
He was accused of heresy and knew that openly defying the church would only prolong his imprisonment.
Wait, he wrote a book defending religion while secretly being an atheist.
He did?
That's incredibly bold.
It was a brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
He cleverly disguised his true beliefs within a seemingly orthodox text.
Okay.
He presented compelling arguments against atheism, subtly weaving in his own philosophical ideas.
So he used the structure of a conformist work to smuggle in his own radical ideas.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It shows that sometimes you have to play the game to survive, even if it means bending the rules a bit.
Exactly. And it allowed Campanella to maintain a degree of intellectual freedom while appearing to conform to the demands of his captors.
This law reminds me of the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Right.
It's about understanding the power dynamics at play and adapting your behavior accordingly.
Precisely. Sometimes the most effective way to advance your own agenda is to play by the rules, at least on the surface.
Right.
Another law that touches on this idea of strategic maneuvering is Law 39.
Okay.
Stir up waters to catch fish.
Ooh, now that sounds like a recipe for chaos.
It does.
It seems counterintuitive to create turmoil if you're trying to achieve a goal.
Right.
What does this law suggest?
It's about recognizing that sometimes creating a bit of chaos can work to your advantage. The key is to stay calm while provoking your opponents, using their emotional reactions against them.
So you're pushing their buttons, but in a calculated way.
Yes.
Using their anger and frustration to cloud their judgment.
Exactly. The book tells the story of Harry Houdini, the famous escape artist. He once allowed a rival to steal the combination to his handcuffs during a challenge.
Wait, he let his opponent cheat?
He did.
Why would he do that?
Houdini was a master showman and psychologist. He knew that by letting his rival believe he had the upper hand, he'd become overconfident and careless. This led to a humiliating defeat for the rival and a spectacular victory for Houdini.
So he used his opponent's arrogance against him.
Exactly.
It's like setting a trap and letting your opponent walk right into it.
It is. And it illustrates a key principle of power. Emotional control is a weapon. You might find this helpful when dealing with difficult people. Their emotional outbursts can actually create opportunities for you if you can maintain your composure.
That's a valuable insight. It's about turning a potential disadvantage into an advantage. By staying calm and collected while your opponent loses their cool.
Precisely. Now let's move on to Law 40. Despise the free lunch. This one seems pretty straightforward. Everyone loves a free lunch, right? What's wrong with that?
I'm guessing it's not about being cheap.
Right.
But about being aware of the hidden costs and obligations that often accompany seemingly free offers.
You hit the nail on the head.
The
book recounts the story of con man Yellow Kid Weil, who made a fortune by exploiting people's greed. For free things, he'd offer things like free real estate or investment opportunities that guaranteed huge returns. But there was always a catch. People would end up paying exorbitant fees or making risky investments, all because they were blinded by the promise of something for nothing.
It reminds me of that old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Think about a time when you were lured in by a tempting offer that turned out to be too good to be true. What was the hidden cost? Was it worth it in the end?
That's a great question to consider. It's about being wary of those too good to be true deals. And understanding that there's always a price to be paid. Whether it's in money, time, or commitment.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we need to develop a critical eye.
We do.
To look beyond the surface. And assess the true cost of any offer. Especially when it comes to matters of power and influence.
Exactly.
Moving on, we have Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter.
This one sounds a bit ruthless.
It does sound a bit aggressive, doesn't it? But it's a principle that's been used effectively throughout history. It highlights the effectiveness of identifying and neutralizing key individuals who hold influence over a group. Instead of trying to control an entire group, it's more efficient to focus on the leader. Or the person who holds sway over the others.
It's a classic divide and conquer strategy, isn't it?
And it is.
Weaken the leader and the group will fall apart.
Right.
The book discussed Cleopatra, the last active pharaoh of ancient Egypt, as an example of this law, right?
Exactly. Cleopatra was a master strategist who understood the importance of controlling the power dynamics within her own family.
Okay.
The book described how she manipulated her siblings, turning them against each other and solidifying her own power.
As the undisputed ruler of Egypt.
It seems like a particularly relevant law in organizational settings.
It does.
Understanding the power structure and identifying the key players who can make or break your plans is essential for anyone who wants to rise to a position of leadership.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that power isn't always about brute force or commanding a large following. Sometimes it's about strategically targeting the right individuals, the influencers, and neutralizing their power to achieve your objectives.
So it's about being strategic and selective in your approach.
It is.
Rather than trying to control everyone and everything.
Precisely. Now let's shift gears and explore a law that emphasizes the importance of subtlety and persuasion. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. This one seems to take a more gentle approach, wouldn't you say?
It's less about coercion and more about winning people over to your side through persuasion, seduction, and emotional influence. Didn't the book use a story about a Japanese warlord to illustrate this point?
Yes, the story of Kyoma Daisen. He desired a valuable painting owned by a man named Somamon. Instead of using force or trying to buy it outright. Daisen took a more subtle approach. He knew Soman was close friends with Tea Master. So he befriended the Tea Master and subtly expressed his admiration for the painting.
So he was playing the long game.
He was.
Working through an intermediary to achieve his goal.
Exactly. The Tea Master, wanting to please Daisen, persuaded Soman to give him the painting as a gift, which he then presented to Daisen.
Oh, wow.
This highlights a key principle of influence. Sometimes the most effective way to get what you want is to work through intermediaries, subtly appealing to their desires and motivations.
It's about making people feel like they're choosing to help you. Rather than being forced or manipulated.
Exactly.
It's like planting a seed and letting it grow organically.
Precisely. And it's a technique that can be used in a variety of situations, from business negotiations to personal relationships.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to a law that sounds both intriguing and a little bit unsettling.
All right.
Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. What exactly is the mirror effect?
This law explores the power of mirroring your opponent's behavior, reflecting their actions and attitudes back at them. It's a technique that can be used to disarm, confuse, and even infuriate. It's like holding up a mirror to their soul, making them confront their own flaws and inconsistencies.
I can see how that would be disarming.
It is.
But also incredibly frustrating for the person being mirrored. They're essentially being forced to confront their own behavior. The book mentioned a psychotherapist who used this technique
Yes. Dr. Milton H. Erickson often mirrored his patient's behavior, subtly adopting their language posture and even their emotional tone.
Was he doing this to build rapport? Or was there a more manipulative element to it?
It's a fascinating question, and it speaks to the duality of this law. Mirroring can be used to create a sense of rapport and understanding, allowing you to bypass someone's defenses and connect with them on a deeper level. However, it can also be used to highlight their self-destructive patterns and provoke a reaction.
So it's a double-edged sword.
It is.
It can be used for good or for ill, depending on the intention of the person wielding it.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so fascinating. It highlights the power of mirroring in both positive and negative contexts. It's a tool that can be used for persuasion, manipulation, and even self-discovery.
This law makes you think about how much of our behavior is influenced by the people we interact with. Are we mirroring them unconsciously? Or are we deliberately adapting our behavior to achieve a specific outcome? It's a fascinating question to ponder.
Indeed. And it speaks to the complexity of human behavior. We are constantly influenced by our surroundings and the people we interact with. Mirroring is a natural part of social interaction. But as with any tool, it can be used in ways that are both beneficial and harmful.
It all comes down to intention, doesn't it?
It does.
How we choose to use the knowledge and skills we possess.
Absolutely. And that's a recurring theme throughout the 48 Laws of Power.
Right.
It's about understanding the nature of power, recognizing its potential for both good and evil, and making conscious choices about how we wield it.
That's a powerful message. Speaking of power, let's move on to another law that focuses on change management. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once.
Okay.
This law emphasizes the importance of introducing change gradually, avoiding drastic overhauls that can lead to backlash and resistance.
Yes.
People are creatures of habit.
They are.
And too much change too quickly can be overwhelming and disruptive.
Absolutely.
It's about meeting people where they are, understanding their comfort levels, and gradually nudging them towards a new way of thinking or doing things. It's like steering a ship.
Okay.
You can't just make a sharp turn without risking capsizing the entire vessel.
Yeah.
You need to make gradual adjustments to stay on course.
Exactly. The book uses the example of King Henry VIII's break from the Roman Catholic Church during the English Reformation.
That was a pretty dramatic shift in power.
It was.
How did he manage to pull that off without causing a massive revolt?
He was surprisingly strategic about it.
Instead of suddenly declaring himself the head of a new church, Henry gradually chipped away at the Catholic Church's authority in England. He started by challenging the Pope's power to annul his marriage, then gradually introduced reforms that distanced the English Church from Rome.
So he played the long game.
Yes.
Strategically planting the seeds of change over time.
Exactly. He understood that people were more likely to accept change if it felt like a natural evolution rather than a sudden revolution.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Okay.
Have you ever tried to implement a big change in your life or at work?
Oh, yeah.
Did you go for a radical overhaul or a more gradual approach?
I've definitely learned the hard way that trying to change too much too quickly often backfires.
It does.
People resist change.
You do.
Especially when it feels imposed on them.
Right.
It's much more effective to bring them along on the journey.
Yeah.
To make them feel like they're part of the process. Precisely. Yeah. And that's what this law is all about. Yeah. It's a valuable lesson for anyone who wants to create lasting change, whether it's in their personal lives, their organizations, or even the world at large.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now let's move on to another law
that
offers a cautionary tale about the dangers of overreaching ambition.
All right.
Law 47, do not go past the mark you aimed for.
Okay.
In victory, learn when to stop.
Okay.
This law warns against the pitfalls of arrogance and overconfidence, especially in the wake of success.
Right.
It emphasizes the importance of recognizing the optimal point of success and avoiding excessive victory, which can create new enemies and challenges. It's like that saying, quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
Sometimes pushing for more can actually lead to losing everything.
Exactly. The book uses the example of the Spartans' struggles after their victory in the Peloponnesian War.
Okay.
They were known for their military prowess, but their victory led to a shift in power dynamics that they were ill-equipped to manage.
So they won the battle, but lost the war.
Right.
Their victory ultimately led to their decline.
Exactly. They overextended themselves, alienated potential allies, and ultimately succumbed to internal strife and external pressures.
It's a powerful reminder that true power lies in knowing your limits.
It is.
Recognizing when you've achieved your objectives and consolidating your gains.
It's about avoiding the trap of hubris.
Right.
That excessive pride and arrogance that can blind us to potential dangers and lead to our downfall.
Right.
Think about those historical figures who seemed invincible, who achieved great things, but then let their success go to their heads.
Right.
It's a cautionary tale that's as relevant today as it was centuries ago.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that true power isn't just about ambition and achieving victory. It's also about wisdom, humility, and knowing when to step back and appreciate what you've accomplished.
I agree. Welcome back to our final deep dive into the 48 Laws of Power.
It's been an incredible journey exploring these timeless principles with you. It really makes you think about how power dynamics play out in all aspects of our lives.
Absolutely. From personal relationships to professional settings and even global politics, These laws offer a framework for understanding how influence is gained, maintained, and sometimes even abused.
Well, let's dive into some of the remaining laws, starting with Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. This one seems pretty self-explanatory, but I'm guessing there's more to it than just trying to be a good person.
You're right. It's not just about being likable or popular. It's about strategically cultivating a reputation that serves your ambitions. Think of it like building a brand. What do you want to be known for? What qualities do you want people to associate with you?
It's about crafting a narrative, right? Creating a perception of yourself that aligns with your goals and aspirations.
Exactly. And this narrative needs to be consistent across all your interactions, both public and private. The book tells the story of François de la Rochefoucauld, the 17th century French writer and duelist, to illustrate this point.
He was known for his sharp wits and cynical observations about human nature, wasn't he? I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of one of his barbs.
He was a formidable figure both intellectually and physically. He was a skilled duelist, but he recognized that even a single loss in a duel could irrevocably damage his reputation. So he carefully chose his opponents, avoiding those who might pose a serious threat.
He was protecting his brand, so to speak. He understood that even a minor setback could have a disproportionate impact on his social standing.
Precisely. And this applies to you as well. Think about your own life. Have you ever made a decision, even a seemingly small one, that ended up having a ripple effect on your reputation?
Definitely. I once gossiped about a colleague thinking it was harmless, but it ended up getting back to them and damaging my relationships at work. It was a hard lesson learned about the power of words and the importance of being mindful of how our actions can affect our reputation.
That's a perfect example. It shows that even seemingly insignificant actions can have unforeseen consequences.
Moving on, we have Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. This one sounds a bit manipulative, doesn't it? Like you're intentionally creating a power imbalance to benefit yourself.
It can certainly be used in manipulative ways, but there's also a more nuanced interpretation. It's about recognizing that interdependence is a natural part of human relationships. Think about it. We all rely on others for various things, whether it's emotional support, practical skills, or access to resources.
So you're saying that it's less about control and more about becoming a valuable asset, someone that others rely on and appreciate.
Exactly. The book discusses Niccolo Machiavelli, the Italian Renaissance diplomat and writer, as an example of this law in action. He famously argued that a ruler should strive to be both loved and feared.
Machiavelli, the author of The Prince. He was known for his ruthless pragmatism, wasn't he? It doesn't seem like love would be high on his priority list.
Well, he understood that power isn't just about brute force or intimidation. It's also about creating a sense of loyalty and obligation. He argued that while it's beneficial to be loved by the people, it's also essential to cultivate a degree of fear to make them understand the consequences of crossing you. This doesn't mean resorting to tyranny or cruelty. It's about establishing clear boundaries, setting expectations, and making it clear that you're not to be trifled with.
It's about being respected, not just liked.
Exactly. And this principle applies to all sorts of relationships, not just those between rulers and their subjects. Think about your own workplace, for example. Have you ever noticed how people gravitate towards those who are both competent and assertive? Those who are willing to help others but also stand up for themselves and command respect?
Absolutely. Those are the people who tend to rise to leadership positions. They're seen as both reliable and authoritative.
Exactly. They've mastered the art of keeping people dependent on them without resorting to manipulation or coercion.
Now let's talk about Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This one sounds a bit contradictory. How can you be honest and generous while simultaneously manipulating someone?
It's not about being deceitful or constantly manipulating people. It's about recognizing that everyone has moments of vulnerability, and a strategic act of kindness or honesty can often disarm their defenses.
It's like using kindness as a Trojan horse, a way to get your foot in the door and gain someone's trust.
That's a great analogy. The book tells the story of Alcibiades, the Athenian general and politician who defected to Sparta during the Peloponnesian War.
He was a fascinating character, a brilliant strategist, but also a bit of a rogue.
Exactly. When he defected to Sparta, he knew he needed to win their trust despite his past allegiance to Athens. So he offered them valuable military intelligence, proving his loyalty and demonstrating his willingness to be an asset to their cause.
So he used a combination of betrayal and strategic generosity to manipulate the Spartans into trusting him.
Precisely. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The Spartans welcomed him into their ranks and even gave him a command in their army.
It's a reminder that human beings are complex creatures, and even our enemies can be swayed by acts of kindness and generosity, even if those acts are strategically calculated.
Exactly. And it underscores the importance of emotional intelligence. Understanding how to appeal to people's emotions, even in the midst of conflict or competition, can be a powerful tool for achieving your goals.
Moving on, we have Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. This one seems a bit counterintuitive. Don't we need to be present and engaged to maintain power and influence?
It's not about disappearing completely or neglecting your responsibilities. It's about recognizing that constant presence can lead to familiarity, which can breed contempt. Have you ever noticed how sometimes when you're away from something or someone for a while, you come back with a renewed appreciation for them?
Absolutely. Absence often makes the heart grow fonder, as they say.
Exactly. The book tells the story of Dices, a wise mediator in ancient media. He was known for his fairness and impartiality, but he noticed that people were starting to take him for granted, so he decided to withdraw from public life.
He staged a disappearing act.
In a way, yes. He retired to his home and refused to hear any more cases. This sudden absence created a void. People realized how much they relied on his wisdom and began to clamor for his return. Eventually, they begged him to come back and even offered him the kingship of media.
So he used his absence as leverage to gain even more power and influence. That's a brilliant strategy.
It is, and it highlights the power of scarcity. When something is readily available, we tend to undervalue it, but when it's rare or difficult to obtain, we desire it more. This principle can be applied in a variety of contexts, from negotiating a salary to building a personal brand.
It's about making yourself a valuable commodity, something that people are willing to work for or wait for.
Precisely. Now let's explore Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. This one sounds a bit ominous. What exactly are thumbscrews in this context?
I'm a little afraid to ask. It sounds like something out of a medieval torture chamber.
Don't worry, it's not as gruesome as it sounds. In this context, thumbscrews refer to people's weaknesses, their vulnerabilities, their secret desires and fears. This law suggests that everyone has a thumbscrew, a point of leverage that can be used to influence their behavior.
It's like finding their kryptonite, that one thing that can weaken their defenses and make them more susceptible to influence.
Exactly. The book discusses Cardinal Richelieu, the powerful 17th century French statesman who was a master at manipulating people's weaknesses.
He was a shrewd political operator. How did he use this thumbscrew strategy to his advantage?
He was a keen observer of human nature, and he understood that power often lies in exploiting people's vulnerabilities. He carefully studied his rivals, identifying their insecurities, ambitions, and hidden desires. He then used this knowledge to manipulate them, playing on their fears, tempting them with promises, or subtly pushing their buttons to provoke a desired reaction.
It's a bit Machiavellian, isn't it? But I guess in the ruthless world of politics, understanding your opponent's weaknesses is essential for survival.
Absolutely. And it's not just limited to the world of politics.
Yeah.
We all have our vulnerabilities, our soft spots. The key is to be aware of them, both in ourselves and in others, and to use this knowledge wisely and ethically.
It's about recognizing that power can be used for both good and evil. And it's up to us to decide how we're going to wield it.
Exactly. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the 48 laws of power. I hope you found this exploration as fascinating and thought-provoking as I have.
It's been an incredible journey. This book offers so much to think about, not just in terms of historical examples, but also in terms of how we navigate power dynamics in our own lives.
Indeed. And remember, these laws are not a set of rules to be followed blindly. They are observations, insights into the ways power has been wielded throughout history. The choice of how to apply these laws, whether for personal gain or for the benefit of others, ultimately rests with each individual.
So it's about using this knowledge responsibly, ethically, and always with a clear understanding of the potential consequences.
Precisely. Now, if you're eager to explore more thought-provoking ideas and enhance your personal and professional development, I highly recommend checking out lingopediamagazine.com. They offer a wealth of courses and ebooks on a wide range of topics.
It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to continue learning and growing. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration.